So in this particular video, we're just going to recap all of the different data structures that we have mentioned so far. Just thought this would be an easy way of being able to remember, have a snapshot of them. So the first one is a variable. So a variable, as we discussed previously, is a data type that would have, or data structure that would have a single data stored in it. For example, we could store someone's name, their postcode, their telephone number. All of those unique individual pieces could be a variable, okay? Or we could store someone's age. Now, of course, a variable has one data type. As we mentioned, these different ones, we got char, we got boolean, we got string, we got integers, float, etc. So the key thing is, in a scenario in an exam, you might be asked for a value, a single value that needs to be stored. Which data structure would they use? Well, a variable will be the one to use. Of course, it has an identifier, which is the variable name. Right, the next data structure that you need to remember is a list or an array. This time round, we can store more than one element within that variable. So I shouldn't use the word variable. We could store more than one item, yeah, to this particular data structure. It still maintains a single identifier. So that means with all of those different data, we can use one name to be able to identify them. And of course, they all have to have the same data type. So in as much as we can have different things stored within them, we can use different data types, but only one data type for a given scenario. For example, if we look at the element at the top here, we got a data of integers. In this instance, we got 10 elements in the array. Always starts with an index position of 0, and we go up to the size of the array -1 for the biggest element in the array. Okay, so all has to have the same data type. The key thing as well is that we can loop through an array or a list, and the size of an array can increase dynamically, so we can always append to an array, and we can remove from an array. Okay, so in an exam again situation, if you're given a scenario in which you don't know how many items you're going to store in your data structure, a list or an array will be your best option. And of course, we can always identify every element with a name. Okay, the others have just been grouped into one thing here. So set, as was already mentioned, all has to be the same data type. They can be stored in a random order, and set cannot contain duplicate values. So again, in a scenario where you are not fussed about the order in which the data is going to be presented to you, you can use a set, and of course it has to be of the same data type. A record, think about a database situation where we need to store multiple information using one identifier. So for example, a library system where we're going to store the record of a book. So we would probably use a record for that, because a book might have a title, it might have a year that it was published, it will have an author, it would have maybe the shelf location where you can find it. So all of those different data have different data types, but they all still belong to that single book. So that's what a record is. So a record stores multiple different data types with one single identifier. Okay, an object is a data structure. When we think about object-oriented programming, this will cover it in more detail later. But if you think about a living thing that has attributes, so if we want to store all of those things, so for example, we have, let's say, a person. Okay, a person has a name, they have a age, they have hair color, they have a gender, they have lots of different attributes that belong to that person. Now, also, a person has methods. Now, that's what computing describes as things that the person can do. So, actions. So, a method is something that the person can do. Now, a person may be able to walk at a particular pace, but different people will walk at different paces. Or if we think about running, each person could possibly run, but maybe they could run at different paces. Likewise, maybe each person might speak, but they might speak a different language. And so a method is a way of being able to give an action, an attribute of an action to an object. And so methods is, well, one of the key things that you need to remember is that you would use an object when you want to have a method. You want to have something that the thing that you're going to store will do. Okay, so that's just a recap of data structures. We will come back to data structures later because you still need to know about more data structures like a stack and a queue. But for now, this is what you need to know for this section.